Today we will talk about coffee, its botany, cultivation and its processing. Scientific classification. It belongs to kingdom Plantae, class Dicotyledone, order Rubiales, family Rubiaceae, genus Coffea. Coffee is one of the commonly used non-alcoholic beverage and act as a stimulant due to the presence of alkaloid, namely caffeine, and other associated chemical compounds which cause particular physiological reactions in humans. The caffeine content of a cup of coffee varies depending mainly on the brewing method and also on the variety of bean. Highest coffee producing countries are Brazil, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Ethiopia, Colombia, Peru, Mexico, Venezuela, Cambodia, Kenya and Tanzania. The highest coffee consuming countries are Canada, the United States, Austria, Italy. Importance of coffee. It is used as a diuretic and in the treatment of headaches. The presence of antioxidants in coffee has been shown to prevent free radicals from causing cell damage. Roasted coffee high in lipophilic antioxidants and chlorogenic acid lactones protected primary neural cell cultures against hydrogen peroxide induced cell death. It reduces the risk of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, heart disease, diabetes mellitus type 2, cirrhosis of the liver and gout. Coffee pulp is used as cattle feed. Its wood is hard and is used as a boxwood and its branches are used as walking sticks. Coffee beans are used in the manufacture of plastic called capsulite. Now, dear students, we will talk about adverse effect of coffee. Excessive amounts of coffee can cause very unpleasant, even life-threatening adverse effects. Excessive intake of coffee is harmful to humans as it causes addiction, irritability, irregular heartbeat, decreased concentration, indigestion, disturbed pancreatic and renal functions. It can even cause stomach ulcers. If taken in empty stomach, caffeine can cause anxiety symptoms in normal individuals, especially in vulnerable patients like those with pre-existing anxiety disorders. Caffeine consumption can lead to iron deficiency, anemia in mothers and infants. Coffee also interferes with the absorption of supplemental iron. Interference with iron absorption is due to the polyphenols present in coffee. Now, dear students, we will talk about coffee plant and its botany. Coffee plant is tropical evergreen woody shrub or small tree. It grows in the wild as high as 12 meters, but cultivated trees are pruned to 2 meters to make harvesting easier. It is differentiated into root, shoot and flowers. Now, dear students, we will talk about coffee root. Coffee plant has a taproot system which grows vertically and gives rise to lateral roots which grow parallel to the ground. The roots of the coffee tree can extend 20 to 25 km in total length and the absorbing surface of a tree ranges from 400 to 500 meters square. The root system is heavily affected by the type of soil and the mineral content of the soil. To be thick and strong, the coffee roots need an extensive supply of nitrogen, calcium and magnesium. During planting, the main vertical roots are often clipped to promote growth of the horizontal roots, which then have better access to water and added nutrients in the top soil. Now, dear students, we will talk about coffee shoot. It has aerial, erect and woody evergreen shoot. Its shoot bears dimorphic pattern of branching known as uprights and laterals. Laterals are also called as plagiotrophic branch and uprights are called as orthotrophic branch. Plagiotrophic branches grow almost at right angles from the main stem. Orthotrophic branches have nodes at a regular distance and carry opposite leaves. These branches are called suckers at the developing stage and stems in the final stage. Now, coffee leaf. Coffee leaves are dark green and lanceolate. They are 10 to 15 cm long, 6 cm wide with an acuminate apex, somewhat attenuate at the base with short petioles. The distance between leaf pairs on the stem is about 1 to 3 inches. They are very dark green on the adaxial side but much lighter on the abaxial side. The margin of the leaf is entire and wavy. Now, dear students, we will talk about coffee flower. Flowers are star-like, white-colored, borne in clusters in the axil of leaves and bloom simultaneously. The sweet fragrance resembles the sweet smell of jasmine flowers. A coffee plant usually starts to produce flowers 3 to 4 years after it is planted. The calyx is small, annular with small tooth-like indentations. The flowers are pentamerous with 5 epipetalous stamens and the ovary is inferior. The anthers of the stamens protrude from the top of the corolla tube together with the top of the two-cleft pistil. Flower size and conditions are entirely dependent on the weather. Sometimes flowers are numerous, very small, very fragrant, while at other times when the weather is not hot and dry, they are very large but not so numerous. In a very dry season, the coffee plant produces flowers that are few in number, small and imperfectly formed, the petals frequently being green instead of white. These flowers do not set fruit. Greater yield of fruit is produced from those flowers that open on a dry sunny day than those that open on wet day, as they have better chance of being pollinated by the insects and the wind. Now, we will talk about coffee fruit. The fruit of a coffee plant is drupe, though commonly called berry. These fruits are small, fleshy, oblong, about 1.5 mm long, 10 to 15 mm in diameter. Fruits are green at immature state and take 7 to 9 months to ripen into the yellow and later scarlet red. Its fruit is differentiated into 3 parts, namely epicarp, mesocarp and endocarp. It consists of 2 oval grey seeds or beans contained in a mucilaginous pulp, that is mesocarp. The seeds are covered by a thin membrane called the silver skin or seed coat. The seed with the membrane is in a common husk-like membrane called parchment or endocarp. Each berry usually possesses 2 seeds, but some of the berries contain only 1 seed. These are called pea berries. Now, dear students, we will talk about coffee plant cultivation. Coffee plants are usually raised from seeds which take about 5 to 6 weeks to germinate. It needs soil which is deep, fertile and rich in organic matter with a pH of 5 to 6. For sowing the coffee seeds, germination beds of about 1 meter width and of convenient length raised to a height of 15 cm from the ground level are prepared. Any deficit air circulation in the nursery soil will cause stunted, unhealthy development of the seedlings, sometimes resulting in death of the seedlings. The nursery sites should be totally free from nematodes. It is advised and recommended that before preparing the nursery, the soil of the nursery site as well as the soil to be used to prepared the nursery beds should be tested in the laboratories for the presence of nematodes. Selected and certified seeds are sown during December or January in the nursery beds. The seeds are sown with their flat side facing the soil, which helps early germination and easy rooting in the soil. After sowing, the seeds are covered with a thin layer of finely sieved soil or mulch with a layer of paddy straw, which ensures optimum temperature for seed germination and protects the seeds from desiccation. The beds are optimally watered daily in the morning hours. These seeds germinate in about 40 to 45 days and attain button or toppy stage. Once this stage is reached, the mulch covering the beds is carefully removed without damaging the germinated seeds. The seedlings at toppy or button stage are then transplanted either into poly bags or in the secondary nursery beds. Transplantation is carried out when a plant seedling has more than 4 branch pairs and less than 8 branch pairs. Trees raised from seed begin to bloom in about 3 years, but a good crop cannot be expected of them for the first 5 or 6 years. It has a productive life of about 40 years. Coffee plant can also be propagated by grafting. Grafting tends to adapt a plant for growing conditions and disease resistance, although it is not a common practice. Now, students, we will talk about factors which affect the coffee yield and its quality. There are 2 factors which impact greatly on coffee yield and quality. First is genetics or genotype species, second is environment. Genotype species. The 2 main cultivated species of the coffee plant are Coffea arabica and Coffea canephora, known as Robusta coffee. Coffea arabica is grown on hillsides at altitude of 1500 to 2000 meters. However, Coffea canephora is cultivated in lower altitudes and warmer climates, where Coffea arabica does not thrive. Coffea arabica requires annual rainfall about 1600 to 2500 millimeters, temperature 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, and relative humidity about 70 to 80%, while as Coffea canephora requires annual rainfall about 1000 to 2000 millimeters and temperature 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, while relative humidity about 80 to 90%. Coffea robusta is resistant to the devastating coffee leaf rust than Coffea arabica. Coffea arabica is predominantly self-pollinating, and thus the seedlings are generally uniform and vary little from their parents. In contrast, Coffea robusta are self-incompatible and require cross-pollination. Also, the caffeine content in the Robusta bean is more than in Arabican coffee. Coffea arabica accounts for 75 to 85% of the world coffee production, while as Coffea robusta account for about 20%. Now, we will talk about environmental factors which affect coffee yield and its quality. To grow and produce good quality coffee, several environmental factors should be taken into consideration. These include elevation, temperature, rainfall, water supply, soil, and slope. Now, dear students, we will talk about elevation. Elevation influences a number of the factors and must be considered along with temperature, rainfall, and water supply, soil, slope, which determine where to plant coffee. An elevation greater than 1000 meters above sea level is required for coffee. High elevation improves the quality of the bean. Now, temperature. Coffee prefers a cool temperature with an optimum daily temperature between 20 to 24 degrees Celsius. Temperature greater than 30 degrees Celsius cause plant stress, leading to cessation of photosynthesis. Slope. A slope less than 15% is preferable. A slight slope will improve air drainage and reduce damage from frost. Water supply. Coffee requires adequate water during the growing and cropping period. However, it is required a dry stress period followed by sufficient rain or irrigation to promote uniform flowering and a good fruit set. Harvesting. Coffee is harvested when the coffee cherries are bright red, glossy and firm. Superior quality of coffee is produced when ripe berries are harvested. Ripe berries are either harvested by hand, stripped from the tree with both unripe and overripe beans, or all the coffee beans are collected using a harvesting machine. These processes are called selective picking, stripping and mechanical harvesting. Now students, we will talk about processing of coffee. There are two methods of processing coffee. First is dry coffee processing and second is wet coffee processing. First, we will go for dry coffee processing. Dry coffee process is also known as unwashed or natural coffee. It is the oldest and simple method of coffee processing. The harvested berries or cherries are usually sorted and cleaned so as to separate unwanted, overripe, unripe and damaged cherries and to remove dirt, soil, twigs and leaves. By flotation, ripe cherries can also be separated. Flotation is followed by drying, in which coffee cherries are subjected to sun drying on a clean dry floor or on mats. Coffee cherries are subjected to other operations in the mill before it is stored, like hulling, sorting, grading and bagging. Hulling removes all the outer layers of the dried cherry in one step by the use of hulling machine. Coffee that has been over dried will become brittle and produce too many broken beans. Coffee that has not been properly dried will be too moist and prone to rapid deterioration due to the infection caused by fungi and bacteria. After drying, the cherries are stored in bulk in special containers called silos until they are roasted and consumed. This is the flow chart for dry coffee processing. It includes first of all sorting and cleaning of these mature cherries, then flotation, sun drying and racking, then milling, followed by hulling, followed by grading by bean size and density, manual or machine sorting, then bagging and storage, then finally coffee is sent for roasting. Now dear students, we will talk about how we can do wet processing for coffee cherries. It is the longer, more complex and most commonly used coffee processing method. After harvesting, coffee is sorted by immersion in water. Bad or unripe fruit will float and the good fruit, ripe fruit will sink. The skin of the cherry and some of the pulp is removed by pressing the fruit by machine or pulper. The bean will still have a significant amount of pulp clinging to it that needs to be removed. Wet beans are allowed to ferment so that the remainder of the pulp is removed by breaking down the cellulose by fermenting the beans with microbes for several days and then washing them with large amount of water. Fermentation is not used in machine assisted wet processing, where machine scrubs off the coffee pulp. Coffee beans are then dried either in the sun or by machine so as to reduce the excess amount of moisture. The last layers of dry skin and remaining fruit residue from the now dry coffee are removed during dry milling, which includes hulling, polishing, cleaning, sorting and grading. Coffee beans are then bagged and shipped for export. Coffee is roasted before it is consumed. Thus, roasting of the green coffee constitutes one of the crucial steps in the processing. Now, we will talk about roasting. The physical and chemical properties of green coffee beans are transformed due to roasting. The roasting process produces the characteristic flavor in coffee and changes its color, taste, smell and density. The bean decreases in weight as moisture is lost and increases in volume, causing it to become less dense. Unroasted beans contain similar acids, protein and caffeine as those that have been roasted but lack the taste. Roasting is carried out in roasters which typically operate at temperature between 240 degree to 275 degree Celsius, and the beans are roasted for a period of time ranging from 3 to 30 minutes. Initially the process is endothermic, but at around 175 degree Celsius it becomes exothermic. Sucrose is rapidly lost during the roasting process and may disappear entirely in darker roasts. The actual roasting begins when the temperature inside the bean reaches approximately 200 degrees Celsius, though different varieties of beans differ in moisture and density and therefore roast at different rates. At the end of the roasting cycle, the roasted beans are dumped from the roasting chamber and cooled with forced air. During roasting, caramelization occurs as intense heat breaks down starch in the bean, changing them to simple sugars that begin to brown, changing the color of the bean. Now, flow chart for wet coffee processing. First of all, harvested mature cherry, then we will go for sorting and cleaning, then it is followed by flotation, pulping and fermentation and washing, then followed by sun and mechanical drying, milling, hulling and polishing, then grading and sorting, followed by manual or machine sorting, bagging and storage, then roasting. So students, it was all about the coffee, its botany, cultivation and processing. Thank you.